Okay, and we're back with our final point in this sort of intro on Saturn square Neptune. Over to you, Jo.
So this idea of foundations being washed away that weren't solid. So Saturn is our very foundational planet, ruling structure, boundaries, limits, very much earth. Saturn has a very earthy temperament. And Neptune is often associated with water, right? Neptune, the god of the oceans, right?
Yes.
And so if things were not solid to begin with, Neptune influences are going to come in and whoosh, wash that away. So you were saying, Kelly, about weaknesses being exposed, right?
Yeah, I think one thing that the planets sometimes get a bad rap or maybe are misconstrued around is that they're not causing a weakness.
Yeah.
But I think what they would do is highlight a weak spot, essentially. You know, if you have got a crack in a foundation, you can be fine until the rain comes down or the snow melts in the spring. And then that weakness is going to become a problem. And so I think that's kind of what's happening here is that if there are weak spots in your plans or around your dreams, they will be highlighted, that you might see that you don't have the resources you need to follow through, or that a dream that you've got is really too insubstantial to be made manifest yet. It might be an indication to go back to the drawing board, or, you know, maybe you've always wanted to change careers and this sort of says, well, you actually have to study for the new, you know, you can't just show up and say, I'm changing. So it's that idea of where are the weak spots? And I guess the other thing too is I don't think it's a bad thing for a weak spot to be exposed because then you know where you have to direct your efforts there. If you're going to shore up the foundations, if you're going to prepare or get things organized for something, you know, there are some things that will be naturally organized by your nature or by your set of circumstances, but there'll be some things that really need a little bit more attention, like filling in the cracks in the basement kind of thing. Because that is Saturn, the foundations. It's you know, physically, if you have a house, it is the foundation or the basement. Emotionally, it's the foundational areas of your life, your job, your relationship, your home, your basic financial position. All of those things give you security. They give you a platform from which you can operate. You might have a good foundation and you've got a solid platform and you can do a lot on top of it. You might have a bit of a rocky foundation. Maybe your job's not that secure. Maybe your relationship's not that secure. And the point here is to highlight that weakness so you can decide if it's worth fixing and then get on with the fixing process. Or the bigger, larger question is not how do I fix it? That's not the first question. The first question is should I fix it? Is it worthy of me fixing it? You know, can this be actually improved, or is it something that's kind of dead and old and buried and really I should have let it go a long time ago?
And can it handle a flood?
Yeah, basically. Have you got enough there? Yeah. That's right. That's right. It's like the dam bursting, right?
Yeah, the dam bursting. And also Neptune can also be associated with things like addictions.
Yes.
Things that you're in denial about. Any
wherever
illusions
you might be wearing some rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. Like spiritual bypass we talked about too, like living way too much.
Oh, yes.
Right? Living way too much with the fairies and the angels, which are wonderful. But, you know, Saturn influence coming in is going to say, okay, well, that's great. And spirituality is a wonderful thing. But like you say, Kelly, put your money where your mouth is. What is it? What does it mean in this real world? How can you embody it, and also how can you live it? Does it make sense for how you're living? Are you living responsibly or irresponsibly? Are you living in that haze?
Yes.
The Neptune haze.
Well, that was one of the questions that we had too, wasn't it? The idea for
Am I skipping ahead?
Listening. That's okay, we can skip ahead. Because it's come up naturally, so it's good. The idea of, you know, are you more of a Saturn person or are you more of a Neptune person? Because each personality type or planet, you know, dominant planet responds differently to these, you know, changing forces in the cosmos, if you like. So if you're typically more of a Saturn person, maybe you have a lot of planets in Capricorn or Aquarius. Maybe you have Saturn conjunct your ascendant, or your sun and moon are both in a strong aspect to Saturn. Then regardless of your sign, I mean, I know for me, I'm a Saturn person, but I'm a Pisces, but that's because of the aspects that Saturn makes in my chart. And so if you're more of a Saturn person, Neptune comes in, it's like you need to loosen up a little. You need to maybe go with the flow, give things a shot. Don't be so organized, essentially, which is an odd thing to say. But if you're a Saturn person, you're going to know exactly what I speak because you're hyper organized. Yeah.
The miser and the mystic.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then if you're more of a Neptune person, if you're more of a mystical person, maybe you have a lot of planets in Pisces in your chart, or maybe Neptune makes some strong aspects. It's on your ascendant or on your midheaven or square your moon or something. You know, you're a person who lives more in the dream world. Then a Saturn transit is a bit harder for the Neptune person, I think, because when you're a strong Neptune person, you are in La La Land half the time, and you're very happy there. But then Saturn comes along and says you have to come down to reality for a little bit.
You have to pay your bills.
You have to pay your bills on time. Or something, if you're a big Neptune person, how you'll know that you're a Neptune person is if at the moment you're having a Saturn experience where you've got a major deadline or something is happening and you have to commit or you have to sign or you're going to lose something.
Yeah.
You know, Saturn is showing up in your life by demanding that you take responsibility in some way. You know, Neptune does the slippery fish really well, and Saturn is asking you to be held to account, to kind of follow through or stick with your words.
It's really this like uniting of matter and spirit.
It is,
right? Which I don't know. That's maybe why I'm obsessed with it, because I'm a very spiritual person myself. I know you are, Kelly. Yeah. But it's how do I put that into reality, right?
Yeah. How do you live in a way that honors that?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you serve that? As soon as you said matter and spirit just then, the thing I got was, that's a church, which is a building designed to honor religion or God or spirit. I mean, whether you agree with mainstream religion or not, it is, I don't know, maybe it's my Pollyanna Pisces. It did originally come from some inspirational, devotional, divine kind of place.
It's true.
But that's ultimately, that idea of a church, I think, is like, what or where in your life do you need to build something that honors your faith? Where do you need to create a church-like space or level of commitment or engagement? You know, how will you honor your dream to write a book? I mean, are you going to sit down every day and the church becomes your writing desk, and that's where you honor that dream? You know, insert creative, artistic metaphor or dream there as required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Neptune influence is really going to soften, like we said, that Saturn, right? So it's not so, we're not so rigid.
No.
Not so rigid.
It's like a letting go and letting God.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever God is.
Letting God. Right?
Okay.
And listening to what God is saying, because generally it's going to be very practical.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It's going to be very practical often. Okay, in order to make this dream a reality, you actually have to do these steps.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
so it's the interface.
Message.
I guess that's probably the real theme, isn't it? It's the interface between the reality and the dream and how you connect the two. What are the actions or behaviors or changes that you need to make, to connect the two? So, okay.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.